And try it again. Uh-oh. This is my updated political speech for YouTube. It has to deal with the election. I made one about 2 years ago, year and a half, something like that. And I thought I was going to change the world. You know, I was going to get on YouTube, boy, just everything going to change. Everything that you don't hear on TV, boy, I was going to say, you know, that you get through YouTube, you can't get through the major media because of, you know, the conglomerates all own the media. And the idea being that YouTube, you could circumvent it that way. Yeah, but only, 200 people looked at it. Well, Bernie Sanders had one that on pretty much the same subject, he only had 50. You know, his rallies had, 300 million. But the one speech he did on the subject I had only had 50. I had a little more than that, but not many. About 200 and some, 230 or something. Anyway, the first thing, there's who I support in the election. I think if you want to stop the corruption in the country and get back the American dream, the best two people, Trump or Sanders, either one. Trump, I think, is a little better because he supports capitalism. I think capitalism generates money better than socialism. But I also think Sanders is a little better because he understands the corruption. He knows who the people are that are involved in it. I think he knows how to tear it down better. I think he knows how to circumvent the lobbyists a little better. And, the way David Brat did on YouTube and so on. And I don't think Trump quite understands all these things. Sanders is smart, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, he was really a brilliant person, and I really think he's smarter than Trump. But so I don't know which one I'd support between the two. I think Sanders, but I like both of them. And the other thing I wanted to say, I think there's some things that I think need to be dealt with in the debates that aren't being dealt with as much as they should be. And the first one is, I think that Sanders outsmarts Hillary pretty good, but I don't think he drives that point home as well as he should, that he's really outsmarting her. I mean, he blows her out of the park. But I also think that if he said that, it might backfire on him. And, the women wouldn't vote for him. I don't know. But it's not always good to do that. It makes someone look too bad to debate. But I think he does it. I think he's blowing her out of the park. But, and I'll get to that later. But the first thing is, I don't think that either one of them brought out enough. In my opinion, trade unions are why we had the American dream we had in the 50s, and they helped the top 49% as well as the bottom 50. The only people that trade unions hurt are the top 1%. And the only reason we don't have them is because of the top 1% and their campaign finance corruption and the way they control the government with the campaign money. And like I said, in Ohio, you don't have, they tried to get a bill through that increased trade union strength. And 73% of Ohio, or 60s some anyway, a very strong majority supported trade union strength. They came in from out of state. They don't even live in Ohio. Corporate America came in there with campaign money, the Ohio State Legislature, and shoved the bill right out. Blocked it so you don't have trade unions. That's why you don't have trade unions. And that would have stopped Carrier from going to Mexico, probably. But anyway, as Trump was, talking about, and the way the trade unions help the 49%, and some of the very, very richest too, and some of the 1%, like Warren Buffett, in my opinion, because the capitalist system, the way it works, is like with my example about the blender. You put the blender in the middle, and you get more work done. You have the same electric motor and the same amount of electricity coming through, but you have more power if you put the blender in the middle because the centrifugal force helps you out. You put it on the side, it stagnates. Nothing gets done. You put it in the middle, and there's a cycle going on. It accelerates. And so it's efficient, more efficient to put in the middle. And the same thing with the capitalist system. That's why we stayed ahead of China and Russia with our technology, because capitalism creates incentive for technological advancement. And so it takes the liberal party ideology to protect the capitalist system as well as Rush Limbaugh. That's what Rush Limbaugh don't tell you. But it takes both the liberal party's ideology too, and that has to do with stopping mergers, because that's what creates competition, and it has to do with antitrust laws and things like that, and that's what creates the competition, and that's a very important part of the capitalist system, and that's why you have technological advancement. So the example I was using, if you have the pharmaceutical industry, and they stomp out all their competition, so they keep trademarks and copyrights, so nobody can compete with them, and they won't let us go to Canada to buy drugs. John McCain brought this out, But so what happens if we went to Canada to buy drugs? They have to make they have to get their price down. So now they compete on the international market. Canada's buying them from us. Now they have incentive technological advancement to try to beat Canada's drug. And so they make a better drug, and they have even more money for technological advancement. They go back and use that money for a better drug than that. And the better drug they have, the more you're stronger they are on the international market. If you're the only country that's got the strong drug, the best drug that beats cancer or whatever it is, the whole world will be buying them from us, and then more and more and more. You know, and it's a cycle that goes back and forth, and it generates money, it brings more money in the country. And so you got a cheaper drug, they're getting money from everyone else in the world. You have a cheaper drug, and so you got consumer confidence back because people aren't spending all their money and losing their house because they're buying drugs. So what happens? That helps Walmart and everybody else, Walmart and everything else, and McDonald's and a whole bunch of other companies. And so it keeps us stronger on the international market in that respect. And that's, yeah, the point. It also helps Warren Buffett, because you figure if companies advance, he makes his money on investing. So if you have, and the best way to get a strong economy in a country is a good ratio of imports and exports. Hold on to exports, not many imports. You increase it, that's the way to increase it. And the advancement of technology and cheap prices are the two things that do that. And that's how the capitalist system works. And you ask anyone on Fox, explain the capitalist system to you. Anybody, get anybody out, get O'Reilly to explain what is capitalism. You know, and he doesn't know. And I've never heard of one of them ever explain it. And why don't they get on Fox and tell them that to somebody? You know, and why don't they get in the debates, you know, and get them these news people and talk to Hillary and ask her to explain it, and you bet she can't explain it. Sanders comes pretty close. But if Warren Buffett would have more money too, that's what I'm saying, with a stronger economy. If everybody else has more, Walmart has more, McDonald's has more, everybody invests in is probably going to have more. And like it's more efficient. That's what I'm saying. So it's a conservative movement. OWS is a conservative movement, in my opinion. And so so trade unions essentially helped the capitalist system because they stopped the mergers, and the mergers are what creates competition. You have two hospitals in town. You have state-of-the-art equipment. One can beat cancer. The other one can't. They're all going to go to the one that can beat cancer. So the other one's going to try to beat it even better. You know, and it goes back and forth. And trade unions is what would stop these mergers. And Sanders has gotten in there and said he's going to stop the mergers. Well, Hillary keeps arguing, oh, the numbers don't work. The reason, that is another thing that bothers me in this debate. I mean, this is the thing I'm trying to point out. She says, well, Sanders' numbers are unrealistic. The reason his numbers are unrealistic is because of government corruption. That's why they're unrealistic. They would be realistic if you could stop the corruption. Hillary's just getting in there and saying, well, you can't do anything about it. Well, you're sure as hell not going to do anything about it if you say that. Sanders knows how to get rid of the corruption. And he's going to be a lot more apt to do it than anyone else. And he knows that even back in the 60s, we had, medical expenses weren't that high. And they didn't have as much corruption in the 60s. They didn't have the lobby power and the campaign money. And you have to stop that. And Sanders, I think, can do it. I think it can be done, but it sure isn't going to get done with Hillary's attitude. And Sanders really outsmarted her, blew her to kingdom come with that line. You know, he says, well, notice they're doing it in Denmark. I wonder how do you explain that? Do they have a magic wand over there? Are they magicians? I mean, what is it exactly? And ask Hillary, and she, of course, couldn't answer it. Well, and he should have drove the point home that he outsmarted her, and but you stop the corruption. And the other thing, let's see, we don't have another problem, we don't have a good trade balance, and that has to do with the foreign lobbyists. They give we found out, there was a report in the USA Today that said that the Saudis were giving money to the environmental groups. And the environmental groups to stop the fracking and that kind of thing, because the Saudis are competing with us with oil. And they don't want, and so, but you know that if they got away with supporting the lobbyists and campaign, but you know the Chinese are going to do it too, and they're going to stop tariffs on trade indirectly one way or another. We're vulnerable, and Obama should have brought this out in the debate with Romney, but like he said, but he was weak, and that's what Sanders said exactly. Obama was too weak to bring this out, and that is what Sanders said. And you've got Hillary that's right in bed with Obama, and really Sanders is a smart one that knows better. He's a lot smarter. He's a lot more practical than Hillary, and a lot more capable. And so why would he, fall under Obama when he's 10 times smarter? That's what he needs to be asking her. And the next thing is that the Dixie Chicks example, where they shut up the Dixie Chicks, I think, and this is another thing ought to be brought up in the debate. It has to do with the 1% owns the media, and they were trying to stop the independent movement, and that's why Bill Clinton signed a bill which gave the radio stations to one man. One man can buy out 40 radio stations. They're trying to stop the independent movement. They're trying to stop the Jesse Venturas. They're trying to stop the Ross Perot's. And I think the reason Clinton signed that is because he did not want competition with the Democrat Party. In other words, they were taking votes away from the Democrats. And the purpose of the Democrat Party is to protect the First Amendment. Even Dan Rather brought this out when he got fired. He said that really that the First Amendment, without the First Amendment, you don't have democracy. It's a vital organ. I mean, democracy's dead. And so Clinton's job as a liberal was to protect the First Amendment, which he failed at. And I think that, and if Hillary is using him, to win this election, she shouldn't be, because he wasn't even a good Democrat. And Carter was a better one than Clinton. And Carter understood this, and even Al Gore did too. And I think Sanders should bring that out against Bill. Because that's why the founding fathers created two parties, and the purpose of the Democrat Party is to protect the First Amendment. And if it's broke, fix it. And if the First Amendment's broken, and if he signed a bill that gave it to the 1%, and that's exactly what he did, so why isn't Sanders bringing this out? And the other thing, let's see, the argument against Bernie Sanders, economically not. Okay, what else I call Sanders? Oh, the polarization in the government. Another thing I don't think Hillary doesn't understand at all. She said, well, Sanders is polarizing the government. Well, the thing that's causing polarization is not Sanders. It's not Sanders' position. The thing that causes polarization, in a normal democracy, you have the left ideology, the right ideology, in both parties, and they give their side. Both have their arguments, the conservative arguments, liberal arguments. Well, both the voters are centrist, the two compromise. And then the government works that way. And then the voters supreme. And because they're afraid of not getting reelected. Well, with the way the democracy is now, we've got a corrupt democracy where it's all about campaign money. And so you have the environmentalists on the left, the environmentalists and the trial lawyers on the left, and corporate America on the right, and the two are sucking both parties towards the periphery, while the voters out of the equation. The election's an auction, goes the highest bidder. And so, and with all that campaign money, so that's why you have polarization. And it's not Sanders that's polarizing it. And why didn't Sanders come back and argue that against Hillary? Why didn't he come back and say, hey, I'm not polarizing anything. It's the corruption in government that causes the polarization. And it's that corruption that she's not dealing with, not even mentioning, and she, I think, doesn't even understand it. And he should have brought it out that she's not bright enough to understand this. And it's not because she's a woman. The Republicans don't get it either. They're all men. The only one over the Republican side is Trump. And see, I guess that's all. I can't remember what else I was going to say. I think I made every point good enough. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, the thing that bothers me about Trump, though, I mean, I feel like I don't think I said earlier, where I think he's a little bit naive. I mean, Fox was a Megyn Kelly thing. It has to do with, because she works for Rupert Murdoch and he has sponsors and they're all the 1%, and they don't, and Trump appears to be adversarial to the lobbyists and the corruption and the campaign finance corruption, and they're in bed with it. They're the ones causing it. And so Megyn Kelly works for Fox and they don't like Trump for that reason. And the same thing with Des Moines Register. And I think Trump should have brought that out. It had nothing to do, like he said, it was her period. It had nothing to do with her period. It goes a lot farther beyond that. And he should have brought it out, and that's where I think he's a little naive. He doesn't realize that the 1%